You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Fasten your seatbelts and hang on tight. You're about to listen to episode 55 of the Soulforge Podcast.
Welcome to the Soulforge, a place of silent mystery, quiet contemplation, and outright mayhem. Join your host, Sean Vanderloo, as he guides you through the adventures of living. Together, we'll talk about life and love, sex and dating, joy and heartache, memories and loss, and so much more. Don't worry, it's not nearly as pretentious as it sounds. Get ready for life, the universe, and everything on the Soulforge.
Hello, and welcome back to the Soulforge Podcast. So glad you could join us. If this is your first time in the Forge of Souls, welcome. Glad to have you here. We'll be gentle, so just stick around till the end. You'll be glad you did. What are we talking about today? We've got something special. Earlier this week, I sat down for a talk with a friend of mine. I've known her for several years. In fact, you'll hear all about how we met and how we pre-met when we get into that conversation. So who do we have? We have Karen, a local girl from Timmins. I could say that she is similar to me in my personality, although she is a more extreme version of my personality type. She's a little bit more out there, more free, puts herself out into the community like I would like to do, but she actually does it. So a really fascinating person. I'm really glad I got to know her, and I think you'll be happy to get to know her as well throughout this episode. If all goes well, she will be back randomly throughout the run of the Soulforge Podcast. She's got many fascinating stories that she can tell, all kinds of different experiences, perspectives. She's lived an interesting life, and you'll get a taste of just how interesting once I play this interview, conversation, chat that we had. So before the chat, I'm just going to go ahead and play a preview, a promo for the Nerd Bliss Podcast here on the ESO Network. Very exciting podcast that the Nerd Bliss folks have. Similar to the Soulforge in a way that they go beyond the bounds of expectation. They're a nerdy podcast, but they talk to and about more than just nerddom. So we'll go ahead and we'll play their promo, and then we'll get right into my conversation with Karen.
Hello, podcast fans. My name is Chris Jones, and I'm here to tell you about the Nerd Bliss Podcast. Now, of all the geek-oriented podcasts out there, we are definitely one of them. Yes, we talk about Star Trek and Star Wars and cosplay and Marvel and DC and the usual. But as geeks, we embrace anyone with very specialized knowledge, like triathletes or improv comedians or musicians. So we try to bring them in and let them share their geekiness with you to help broaden some horizons, and maybe you'll learn something. Maybe we'll learn something. You can find our entire catalog at nerdblisspodcast.com on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google Play Music, Player FM, and we are now proud to be a part of the ESO Network. Once again, we are the Nerd Bliss Podcast. Thank you, and pod bless.
So today, I'm sitting here in my kitchen with my friend Karen. How are you today, Karen?
I'm all right.
Good. Now, this is the first time on the Soulforge Podcast. Are you nervous? Are you okay?
I'm okay right now. I'm usually pretty open about talking about most subjects. Being recorded is a little different, but it's not brand new to me, even though the podcast format is.
Yeah, being recorded is a little bit artificial, so it's kind of hard to form your words properly. Even now, after 5.5 years of podcasting, it's still not easy. I guess it's 4.5. It's not 5.5. I don't know why I said 5.5. See, you lose your brain when you're in front of a microphone. But you and I have known each other for several years.
Yeah, I think we met through Northern Ontario Expo. Is that?
Yes, the first time we officially met, I believe, was about 4 years ago. We were at the Northern Ontario Expo costume contest. You were one of the Doctor Who's.
Ah, yes, the Sixth Doctor.
The Sixth Doctor, and I was Mirror Spock. But did you know that I knew about you years before this?
No.
I didn't think you did. And you know how I knew?
I have no idea.
About 5 or 6 years ago, I was your mailman. And this Karen person was always getting these stupid packages after day after day after day. And I'd have to deliver all this stuff. I'm like, who is this chick and why is she getting so much stuff? And turns out it was for your cosplay.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember what I would have been getting like 5 or 6 years ago, but I always get quite a few packages.
There was a lot of packages. Yeah. So, Karen, okay, package, and then there we were at the costume contest, and you said who you were, and I'm like, I know that name. And then, so that was about 4 years ago, I think.
Well, I'm sorry for all the packages, but
well, it kept me busy, it kept me having a job, right? So you didn't know that, and I never brought that up, but surprise.
That's funny.
That is funny. Yeah. So then you did the call out for people to challenge you for next year's costume contest.
Yes.
And so that was 4 years ago, and then the next year, was that when you became the Klingon?
Yes, and that was kind of how I decided to become the Klingon. When I challenged everybody on camera, I figured I had to bring it, and I sounded more like a Klingon than the Doctor at that point. So
yeah, you yelled out, and everybody heard you and took notice. And I'm like, whoa.
Right, and that was because for a few years in a row, I had won the costume contest with costumes that they were all right, but I knew there were people in town who could do better.
Right.
I'd seen craftspeople in town who could do amazing work, and they were not out there. And I knew it wasn't because they weren't interested, because they were as geeky as we are, so...
Yeah. Yeah, so you put out the challenge, and I think since then, the costume contest has really stepped up its game, actually.
Yeah, and I've been glad to see that. I've stepped back from competing because, after you win a few times, it's time to let other people take over, and I'm really glad that there's been some amazing craftspeople stepping up and showing off what they can do here in Timmins.
Yeah, like, for instance, our good buddy Sparky, he's Groot.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's Paul. And he's great. And there's that other guy who was that night demon stalker guy with the stilts.
Oh, yeah.
That thing's
amazing looking.
Super creepy, but
really
detailed.
And Emily bringing out her new 52 Joker and her spring... I don't know the character. Now I'm forgetting my words because I'm being recorded.
Of course. That's how it works.
That creepy bunny rabbit toy thing.
Is that a Five Nights at Freddy thing?
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but I've seen the toys in the stores and people talk about it.
But the costume was cool.
It was super cool. So there's a lot of talent out there.
Exactly.
And I think in large part that's thanks to you.
Well, it was out there. It's just, I think some people need a little bit of a poke before they'll actually get out there and show the world that they're here.
Right. Some encouragement, some stimulation, motivation.
Yeah, especially those of us who tend to be kind of nerdy and geeky. People tend to stay at home and keep their talents to themselves and not show the world what they can do because it's kind of uncomfortable, especially, the ones in our age range who were probably bullied as kids or,
right.
Yeah.
Because we're in our early 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for the most part, we would hide in the shadows because we don't want to be noticed so we don't get picked on.
Exactly.
Yes. But you, all of a sudden, made this challenge, and the geekdom has sprung forth from the well, and there it is. And now, the big thing is, everybody says, did you see the Klingons? They were at City Hall again. Did you see the Klingons? They were here at the park. Did you see the Klingons? They were handing out chocolate. So you're the captain of the Crimson Dawn.
Yeah, and not only that, but I mean, I was at EB Games picking up a couple things the other day, and the person working at the store recognized me as a Klingon. I was wearing my Klingon Pop Warrior shirt, and she said, "So how come every time there's Klingons in the store, you're not in costume? Because we have a Star Wars guy who comes out in costume, and we know you go places in costume." So we have now been requested at EB Games. So sometime in the near future, we will be showing up there. So it not only are people noticing that we're out doing stuff, people are requesting that we show up at places that people don't normally show up in costume. So that's awesome.
Yeah, that is. Because Because I don't go out with the group a lot. I joined, what, 2 years ago, or was it 3? How long has the actual group been in effect?
Oh, we've been around 3 years ago. 3 years now, I think, and I think you joined 2 years ago because it was with the Borg costume.
Yes, so that would have been, I guess 2016.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. I dressed up as the Borg. I joined the Klingon group as, what is it called? An interspecies delegate or something?
The IXL, the Imperial Xeno Legion.
Okay.
So that's for all aliens that are not Klingon, and well, except for humans. We don't take humans.
No, we can't take humans. No.
But back to the idea of people being shy and kind of hiding. For me, I find that the costume helps. I can be kind of socially awkward and not know what to do, but if I have a costume on, I have a persona. So I go out in public and I know how to interact with people, and it's easier.
I could see that, because I'm going to tell you something live on the air here. When we're just sitting here like this, you're easy enough to talk to. But when you have your Klingon head ridges on and your full uniform and your makeup, you friggin' scare me. Even though I know who you are as a person, when you are in the costume, you have that persona on and you become, what's your character name?
Klarnok.
Yeah, you become that. And I'm like, that's not Karen anymore. I'm scared. And you do these poses. And the way that your lip quivers when you're making that angry face, I'm like, holy crap.
It's not human.
Like, it's not human. Like, you're so into that persona
that it's acting, right?
It's acting, but it's realistic and it's scary.
Well, when I was younger, I wanted to act, and I think I could have, but I was too shy. I was too afraid, and with having a family and so many things happening in between, I think I've missed my chance to really get out there in the acting world. But this is a way I can get out and do that. And it's kind of an escape from all the rest of the stuff. And
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's easy enough to join the group and go out there with you guys.
Yeah.
Like when I look on Facebook, it's almost every week that you guys are out there doing something. And I don't join every single time. I'd like to, but sometimes I'm too busy or there's something else going on. And I don't have a full costume yet. You made me the head ridges there last year, which is awesome.
And sometimes that's all we do. Like you say every week, but it's not a big thing every week. Sometimes it's just, hey, we happen to be having a campfire in my brother's backyard and I have ridges in my backpack and he has them in the house. We throw them on and do something silly and throw it up on social media.
Right. But you got the presence going,
exactly.
so that you're out there in the community. Even if it's a small thing, people know who you are.
Exactly, and I think that's important with social media because people forget people quickly. Yes. If you're not being seen regularly, then you're in the past and you're no longer relevant. So if you want people to search and find you and be able to join in and think of you as someone they might call to participate in things, you have to be out there regularly.
That's true. And do you find that since you started this and it allows you to be out in the community more and people recognize you, when you're in your regular human form, do you still have that confidence or does it get diminished because you're not wearing the ridges?
I have a lot more confidence than I used to when I was younger, but I think there's a lot of factors. The Klingon thing helps.
But age and perspective is another thing?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many factors that add to that. And, I think it would be nice to have the confidence of a 40-plus-year-old and the energy of a younger person, but that just doesn't happen because we didn't have the experience back then to put that on. And yeah, I mean, being a Klingon and having people say, you're so cool, which is still weird because I was not a cool kid.
What? You're kidding.
No. I was the kid that my best friend was told that she would be popular if she jumped the freak,
Wow.
And she didn't.
Oh,
she
she
stuck with
by.
me. She's still a great friend.
Good.
But that was me, and so it's still really strange when people say, "Oh my God, you're so cool. I wish I was like you." I'm like, "What? Wait, well, thank you."
That's a new experience. It's not normal.
And a few years ago when I heard that, my brain would still go into the "don't accuse me of being one of those cool people, they're mean" mode, right?
Yeah, of course.
It's like, what are you saying? But Right now it just means that I think people admire what I'm doing and they may not have the courage to step out and do the same thing. And that's why I think it's important that I talk about how once you put things on, it's a different situation than when you're thinking about it before you put a costume on.
True. Yeah, I can vouch for that. Because when I put the ridges on, I'm not me anymore. I put on the fake Klingon shirt, and I put on the head ridges, and maybe I have a sword, or maybe I don't. But it's not me anymore.
Yeah, and people don't necessarily even recognize us. They'll look at us and they'll see, hey, you look kind of familiar, but not many people say, hey, you're that Klingon that I saw at Tim Hortons,
Right, exactly.
They're like, where have I seen you before? And then you have to kind of cover up your forehead and growl, and they're like, oh, it's you.
Does that happen a lot?
It's happened a few times. Not a lot, but it's always fun when it does.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Yeah, and the same thing when I actually was the Borg. I walked around the convention hall like a Borg the entire time. And people thought it was cool, and they took pictures with me. Just like 2 weeks ago when we went to Graphicon in Sudbury.
Yeah.
Everybody was taking pictures with us.
Yeah.
People love it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's out of the norm. It's not a regular thing. In a convention hall, sure, that's normal. But when you're out on the street, and it's not Halloween, or there's not some kind of costume ball, and it's just, we're just doing this.
Right, and there's always somebody who yells out something like, it's not Halloween! And, we just say, no, it's not, or something, you don't let them upset you, because that's what they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's because they wish they had the confidence to do that, or are they just a bunch of buttheads?
I think it depends on the person. Sometimes I think it is. Sometimes I think that people who are afraid to step out of their boxes might not be aware that they're afraid to step out of their boxes, but they get angry when other people step out of the boxes they think they should be in, and they don't necessarily know why. They just want to squash it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're showing too much confidence, so stop it.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be this small little bug.
You're shaking up my world, and I don't want to think about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right. It's just like that guy who went around wearing was it a horse head or a unicorn mask?
I think the one in town was a horse head. I don't know. I've seen so many of those now.
Yeah, it's just a thing.
That's why I didn't buy the horse or the unicorn. I have several others.
Oh yeah?
Well, I have a jackass mask that I bring out at parties. If somebody gets too stupid, it's like, all right, if you're going to do that, you got to wear this.
Is that the one you brought to my 40th?
I did.
Okay, yeah.
And sometimes I just bring that out for fun. I also have a banana slug.
Oh.
Yeah, and a pug.
Okay.
And I think it's a Tyrannosaurus. It's one that was made by Jurassic Park marketing.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so I've got those rubber masks in the same style as that horse and unicorn head.
Nice. And do you ever walk around town with it?
No, I'll tend to put it on and do something and then take it off because it's really hard to breathe in those things.
Ah, right, okay.
And I get a little claustrophobic when I can't breathe. So for me, it's hard to walk around in them.
And it's also easier if you're in a group, do you find?
Sometimes.
Like when we do our Klingon adventures, it's usually you and your two brothers and Pierre.
Yeah.
And then there's a bunch of other random people like me who sometimes show up.
Yeah. Well, I have done the Klingon thing alone.
And how is that
different? I might get a little more nervous before I step out the door, but once I have everything on and I step out the door, I'm her, I'm not me. It's still the same. But I can breathe. It doesn't cover up my face.
Yeah.
I think if I tried to do a character that included prosthetics that covered my nose and I had to breathe only through my mouth, then I might have a bit more trouble because of the breathing aspect.
I could see that. Yeah, that would be way more difficult.
But costuming isn't always comfortable.
No, it's not. No.
Still fun.
It is.
Still worth it, but not comfortable.
No, actually, a lot of the adventures that you guys do are in the summertime. And you're wearing fur.
Yeah.
Doesn't that kill you? Like, isn't it way too hot?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. It's way too hot. Need to make sure to get enough water. But more things happen outdoors in the summer.
Right.
There's more events, especially up here in Northern Ontario. I mean, so there's more things that are available for us to do.
Well, sure, because we have 8 months of winter. So we're all stuck inside.
And, there's no outdoor festivals to show up at when it's 40 below.
And who would want to?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, when we did the coldest night of the year march, that was a great cause. We wanted to participate, and it ended up not being the coldest night of the year. It was actually about -8 or -10.
Oh, that's toasty.
Yeah, and our winter costumes were too hot that day.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, what we wore that day, we probably would have been comfortable at -15 or even -20.
Mm-hmm. So you're overheating.
Yeah, even at -10, we were overheating.
Wow.
So in the summer, it's kind of ridiculous. We try to do what we can to make them breathable, but
It's not easy.
with your head covered in latex,
It's hot, and
Yeah.
and the wig and
yeah.
right. Well, see, I'm pretty much bald, so the wig doesn't bother me that much. But you got a full head of hair.
I do now. I've been bald as well. I've shaved my head a couple times, and this feels strange, but I'm keeping it at least till midsummer.
And then what happens?
Well, I participate in the greatest international scavenger hunt, and a few years there's been an item that required people to cut off their hair and donate it, cut off their hair and make a wig out of it and wear it as a wig.
Wear your own hair as a wig?
Yeah, that was a thing.
Okay.
And I haven't been the person on my team to do an item like that yet, but I have no problem with shaving my head, and now my hair's long, so I've volunteered that if there's such an item this year, it's my turn.
Okay. So you're going to walk around with your head bald, like a dude, and you'd be okay with that, or would you wear like a wig when you're out in public, or would you
Oh
just?
no, I've been bald before. I look good bald.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't bother you.
No. But then I have no problem with appearing like a dude. I consider myself to be non-binary. Sometimes I feel more manly. Sometimes I feel more feminine. I'm very fluid when it comes to that. I have a baggie of my own hair that I keep to glue on my face in case I need a beard or a mustache.
I did not know that.
I look good bald with facial hair.
Well, I look forward to seeing that if this becomes a thing.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing too, because if I appear like a woman, people respond to me one way. If I appear like a man, people respond to me another way. If I appear to be a man and then I speak, because I have a very feminine voice, it really throws people off.
I can imagine.
And then they don't want anything to do with me at all. They just walk away.
Because they don't know how to respond.
Yeah, they don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
They're like... So that's an interesting thing to explore. But yeah, I have no problem being bald, and if I'm wearing feminine clothes and walking in a feminine way, then being bald doesn't make me look manly.
Well, of course not. No.
Yeah.
It's just your hairstyle at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You know, the first time I did, I was concerned that I'd have like a misshapen head or something like that.
Because you don't know till it's gone.
Right.
Mm.
And my hair was halfway down my back, and I was downtown at the what do they call that, urban marketplace?
Yeah, in the summer when they close the streets down and they have a bunch of vendors.
Exactly. Yeah. So there was an audience, and they forgot the mirror, so I had to walk through all the people and find a place with a bathroom before I could see what I looked like, and that was a little strange. I'm like, okay, so go from very long hair to nothing, and everybody gets to see me before me.
And what were the reactions?
Well, one person at that point said I'd make a good-looking man, but when I saw myself, I didn't look like a man. People were cheering and giving me a thumbs up because, it was a fundraiser for Cops for Cancer, and people want to see a woman with long hair getting a shave.
Well, of course.
I raised over $1,000 that year because,
Wow.
like I said, my hair was halfway down my back, and that was why I decided to do it, because most of the people participating had shortish hair, and I thought, if I volunteered to get up there and shave all this off in front of everybody, it could make a difference.
For sure, yeah.
So that was an interesting experience, and then I kept it shorter after that, and I shaved it a couple of times because it's comfortable in the summer.
Oh, it is. I know. I can tell you.
And it's a lot less trouble. You go through a lot less shampoo. So
True.
it's cheaper.
Yes. Accurate. Yep. That's right.
And if I wanted hair, I could get a wig and put it on.
Well, sure you could.
Like, when you grow your own, if you want to be bald, you can't just take it off and put it back on later.
Yeah, no.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work that way. For some reason. Yeah, you're right. Huh.
That's why when I watch fantasy like the Harry Potter world where they can just like grow hair and cut it off, and then that's kind of tempting.
It'd be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure it would be.
That way I wouldn't have to keep a baggie of my own hair for beards.
Yeah, true. Luckily, I can just grow my own beard. So
Yeah.
takes a while sometimes, but hey. So this has been a good introduction to who Karen is as a person and some of the things that you're into. If people wanted to get a hold of you, you're on Twitter.
Yeah.
How could they find you?
I'm on Twitter, and my Twitter tag is @Flindanara.
And how do you spell it?
FLYNNDANARRA.
Okay. And are you on Instagram?
Yes, on Instagram I'm Lady Danger 47.
Lady Danger 47. Okay. And of course you're on Facebook and pretty much all the social media stuff. Are you on Snapchat?
Well, I have a Snapchat. I don't use it very often. My kids use it, so I have it there in case they want to send me a thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we don't have to say what that is.
Yeah.
So that's good. But yeah, if the best way to get a hold of you is on Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter is an easy way to get a hold of me.
All right, that sounds good. And is there anything you want to plug before we end the show? Like your greatest international scavenger hunt website, or how to join the Klingon League, or anything like that?
Well, the greatest international scavenger hunt. We should probably talk about that another time.
we could have a whole topic, a whole show on it.
That's a huge thing.
Is it that big? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've only barely scratched the surface of the fascinating individual that is Karen. So we'll definitely have you back for more shows.
Sounds like a plan.
Perfect. We'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
All right. So how was that? Great conversation. Karen's great. She's awesome. If you have any questions for her, you could go ahead and catch her on Twitter, or you can email the Soulforge here, soulforgepodcast@gmail.com. I'll pass the message along to her. I hope you learned a lot about confidence and putting yourself out there and being more than you can be. Karen will be back on the show at a later time. She may become one of the recurring, would you call it, guest hosts, co-hosts, people that I have conversations with. Who knows? I don't really have a term for people like Tracy and Trish and Karen and Bishop and those kinds of people. But you know what? Doesn't matter. I don't need a term. I don't need to label everything. That's not what this is about. So anyway, on that note, I'm just going to take my leave. Hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll talk to you next week. And remember, when a child is learning how to walk and falls down 50 times, they never think to themselves, maybe this isn't for me. This has been another episode of the Soulforge Podcast. Contact the show by emailing soulforgepodcast@gmail.com or by tweeting soulforgepod on Twitter. Visit us at soulforgepodcast.com, and remember, the best way to show your support is by leaving a 5-star review in the iTunes Store. And, if you would, please check us out and like us on Facebook. The Soulforge Podcast was written, produced, scored, edited, engineered, and directed by Sean Vanderloo. Find me on Twitter and Instagram at Darth Vaderloo. For more great content, you can listen to my other podcast, The Rusted Robot. Thanks for stopping by the Forge. We'll keep the fires lit until your next visit.
I could do this all day.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping through Amazon.com or the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.